give you guys a standard spotlight. Basically, I'm here to give you guys a look-see into one of the new decks coming out in Ikoria, and how I've gone about building it, and other options for the deck, along with how good I think the deck is, and how much potential it honestly has in the new standard meta. I plan to go through this whole week every single version of Mutate I can build with the 3 colors given, hopefully using all the mythics, all the apexes of Ikoria, but we'll see what happens. And if you like the video or you want to see more on one of the other Mutate creatures, please like, comment, subscribe, tell me what you guys want to see. First deck we're going for is the Mardu Mutate. With Mardu Mutate, I aimed at going at a go wide strategy because most of their Mutate creatures either get you more creatures in one way or form, or go wide. The only one that honestly stands out when it comes to what this Mutate deck kind of wants to do is, unfortunately, it's like big staple mainstay mythic card and snap decks. Besides that, I also added in a unique thing into the sideboard, and that is the companion command. The companion commander? I was about to say commander. It's sort of like a commander. It works in the same sort of way. It's like an extra card in your hand, except you can't continuously cast it from the command zone. It's really cool, actually, and I actually really liked it in this deck, especially since the deck was already going wide. But I'll be honest, maybe if I took it out, I could hopefully add a couple better cards, maybe a couple more go wide cards. But I found that it was just so interesting to play and so useful that I kept it in. If I do return to this deck, maybe I'll try to build it without this restriction in mind. Next we have the 1-drops. Well, the early game, I added Red Minkin, Malkin, this Mamba, and Labyrinth Raptor. Honestly, Mamba's either a swing or a miss because not all decks are playing a bunch of low drops, I find. Most are, and if you can get Mamba down early, it is really good to mutate onto. But I've played a few other Mutate decks that I'm working on for later this week, and Mamba's probably one of the weaker Mutate cards. The Malkin is in here mainly because it works well with Labyrinth Raptor, also works well with our companion. Its sackability is something I rarely ever used, but I used once or twice. It was alright in my testing. Labyrinth Raptor, though, is a card that I actually think is a lot better than I originally thought. Mainly because if you get 2 of these on board, or let's say you mutate over one and you get the other one on board, point is you have 2 of this ability on board, it is like, okay, I'm swinging with these creatures. If you block them, not only do you not kill them, but you lose 4 of your creatures. Your opponent, basically, if you have 2 of these on board, your menace creatures are nigh unblockable. They can block them, but they're literally only chumping away 2 of their creatures, which is like so nice. Plus, it also has the pump ability to give basically an anthem effect to all of your menace creatures. Honestly, thanks to this card, I think I might be trying out the menace deck. It looks like it's red. I want to see if I can add white to it, but it looks like it's mainly red-black. And while I don't think that deck might be top tier, I think that deck might be a solid tier 2. Next we have the Mutate Creatures. These creatures, like I said, these are some of the best creatures you can mutate in these colors. with the restriction, of course. The bat is something I honestly want to, if I ever rebuild this deck, I'm going to try to build it without the companion restriction. And the bat is honestly something that's really nice in other decks I've been testing. Alright, Regal Leosaur. It's a bit awkward that it doesn't give itself the boost, but it is a low-cost mutate, and one of the other reasons I went with the companion mechanic is because it made hard casting some of these creatures not feel as bad, as they came in with an extra power, toughness, and vigilance thanks to Canera, the Orphan Guard, which is still such a weird name, but I understand. Point is, you're going to be playing, if your goal kind of is to play one of these early, play it as a 2-drop, play it as a 3-drop, then mutate over it for its mutate abilities, which are really good, but I find the fact that you have to play a vanilla card in the early game kind of putting back, which is why I still think this deck is still only probably like tier 2.5 or tier 2. Cub Warden, so Necropanther is really good in the fact that you mutate onto it and you get more value and you get one of your lower cost creatures back. That could be a Regisaur, that could be one of the min. The Labyrinth Raptor is probably your best target. Cub Warden is helping you go wide with your mutate. You mutate on top of Cub Warden, you get more of a board. Especially if you have your Anthem ability out, they become 2/2s instead of 1/1s. Snapdax is basically removal in this deck. It's removal with the ability to trigger one of your mutate creatures. Also, it's one of the things I really want from Snapdax is for it to have more power than it originally has. Instead of being a 3/5, I want it to be like a 4/4 or something. And while having the Anthem is nice, I honestly wish that I had like a 4-power creature in this deck. But that's something, if I ever do come back to this deck, I want to explore with. Now, yeah, we have some more Orphan Guards in the main deck. I honestly found that you kind of don't... I've tried running 4 total, 1 in the side, 3 in the main. But I find that at that point, you do see it too much. And one of the interesting things, and one of the reasons I'm going with Mutate for this whole week, is that the Orphan Guard, if you mutate onto it, it's different. It's technically a card with a different name that's not legendary. So mutating onto them is like a way you can play around and get past the legend rule, which is one of the strengths I feel of Mutate. And I feel anytime you mutate a creature, you really want to get one of these technical aspects, these technical strengths, and that's where you're going to find your value. Offspring's Revenge, I'll be honest, Offspring's Revenge is an interesting card in that if one of my mutate creatures die, I can bring it back as a 1/1 and mutate on top of it. I think it's also one of the payoffs for Mutate. But I'll be honest, I didn't draw it too much and I didn't see it too much during testing. The times I did see it, it was okay, but the fact that it comes in during combat is a bit awkward. Call of the Death Dweller is also something I was playing around with, trying to play around with getting more advantage card-wise. I honestly didn't like it too much. I'd probably replace it. Bedevil is just your standard removal. In this deck, it pretty much kills everything. I did have Heartless Act in here at a time, but I ended up playing against a lot of people play testing different decks with +1 counters, and I find Heartless Act is a very good card if you're not against something that has counters on it. If you're against something that has counters on it, it is very dead. Next, we have Fable Passage. Well, we just have the land base. Your normal, you always want to play a full playset of Shocklands. I find the Trinome are pretty good. You actually feel like you might want to replace some Fable Passages. You could also put in some of the castles, I believe. I don't have any here, but honestly, you could switch around some swamp or two with the Black Castle. And sideboard, honestly, you could put the sideboard you saw in the list earlier had just a bunch of 3-ofs. Honestly, you could put whatever you want in sideboard. The companion is something I recommend, but again, I still want to playtest this deck without the companion. This sideboard, this is just an example of things you could put on the sideboard. Duress is still a good card, especially if hardcore control is coming back. If people just keep playing Euro decks, then Agonizing Remorse is better. You still have the Cycle of Hate cards, minus my favorite hate card in the green one. But you still have that Cycle of Hate cards from M20. Heartless Act is a very good card. Do not sleep on it, but do not overestimate it in the fact that it can't stop things with counters. Soul Guide Lantern is a card that I still feel is very good. Scorching Dragonfire is just good red removal. Fire Prophecy is an interesting card if you want to add it to your sideboard or even the main deck, in that it kind of cycles out a card from your hand and destroys something, which is very red-esque. You're not getting straight card advantage, but you're getting to see more of your cards. And some more cards I think are worth exploring with the deck. Licorice Dream of the Dream Den is a very interesting card, and I feel it's just really good in the fact that you can play more of your cards from your graveyard and get advantage that way. I don't feel like going for its companion restrictions worth it, but adding it to the deck might be. I felt like the deck was having too many 4-drops, so I didn't have Scampering Scorcher in the deck. It's a card that I feel is pretty good in this deck. I'd maybe switch out the Cub Warden for the Scampering Scorcher, especially if it means you could play the card under it, Thunderkin Awakener. This is a card I really want to play with when I build another 3-color Mutate deck, in the fact that it's based off this creature's toughness, and if you mutate on top of it, you're technically changing its toughness. Rotting Registrar is a card I feel should be in any black aggro deck. Hunted Nightmare is not Rotting Registrar, but I feel if you do build a Menace deck, it's worth looking at, and maybe it's worth looking at in this deck. And finally, Marauding Raptor is a card I was thinking of putting into the deck, but it did not work well with Cub Warden at all, and the fact that you can't really make tokens with Marauding Raptor in your deck. So he's a card that I've been looking at, but just didn't work out for this deck. I do feel it is interesting, though, that it would reduce your mutate costs, along with if you have a 2-drop mutate per se, that they technically can get around getting hit by Marauding Raptor if you mutate on top of it. So I think that's really interesting too. All in all, I think even if I were to pursue this deck more, it would only end up being like a tier 2.5 deck. It's not that great. I do feel like it's a decent deck all around, but I feel like it has its limitations in that while you want to go wide, it doesn't go super wide. It doesn't go super tall. It doesn't do anything to the point where I think it can be a tier 1 deck. If you want to play around with it, that's fine. And if you want me to revisit it, just hit me up in the comments, and maybe if I get enough likes, enough comments saying I want to revisit this deck, then sure, I'll revisit it. But all in all, it's just an interesting deck. It's pretty fun. I don't think it's going to It might win you an F&M, but that's just a maybe. Anyway, that's been this deck spotlight. If you like the video or you want to see me improve or go further on in these types of videos, just keep watching this week, subscribe, like, and just in the comments tell me if there's anything else that you would probably add to this deck. So if I do revisit it, I can come to those cards. And tell me if there's any of the other 3-color mutate combinations you guys want to see. I'll probably move those up on the ladder. Tomorrow I'm going to be trying to do either the Sultai or the Abzan, or maybe a mixture of both, since those kind of seem like they work together. But I do not want to hit 4-color. Anyway, that's been this standard spotlight. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.